Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 614. In this episode, I am talking with an inspiring speaker and one of my amazing one-on-one clients and friends, Nick Prefontaine. You may remember him from not only episode 409, but also episode 449. Yep, this is his third time on the show, everyone. Nick is a three-time best-selling author and was named a top motivational speaker of 2022 in Yahoo Finance. He's also the founder and CEO of Common Goal. Using the STEP system, Nick leads his clients through their trauma to where their limitless potential lies. He's been featured in Brains Magazine, Sway, Authority Magazine, and today I am in conversation with Nick about his story and how he has become such a masterful speaker. All right, everybody, let's do this. Nick, I am so excited to welcome you back to the Big Talk podcast. How are you today?
I'm outstanding, Tricia. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy. And I'm so looking forward to this as well. And for those of you who have not listened to the podcast before and who are new to the Big Talk, Nick is a three-time podcast guest. His first episode was aired on January 7th in 2022, I believe, and it was the Speaker Salon Showcase. It's episode 404. And then he came back and spoke to us about limitless creation on July 26th, which is episode 449. And he's back today to talk about what it means to have a common goal, his new company, what it means to be a Speaker Salon two-time alum. He just spoke at the salon again, and that episode will air at some point in the future as well. So let's actually, for those of you who haven't listened, take us back and do a quick recap, because we all know what your backstory is because you've been on the show before, but do a quick backstory synopsis recap for us, Nick.
Sure. So back my origin story is back when I was in eighth grade. I was in eighth grade at ski club with my friends, and on that day, all my friends and I had brought our gear onto the bus so we could get ready and not miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. So we got to the mountain, headed right for the chairlift, and then on the way up, Trisha, we noticed that it was very icy because it had been raining earlier in the day, so people were wiping out everywhere. However, that didn't stop us. So got to the top, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards the biggest jump in the terrain park with all my speed. And going out to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, and I was forced to go off the jump off balance. Um, Later, I found out that I landed on my head and I wasn't wearing a helmet. Also found out that there were several things about that day that really led me to where I'm able to be with you today to tell this story. Three things. The first of which was, although I didn't have a helmet on, I had a pair of goggles that were very thick with a lot of padding. So not only did they brace my initial impact with the ice, as I continued to roll down the mountain and continued to hit my head, the goggles mysteriously or not so mysteriously, depending on what you believe, I believe everything happens for a reason. So that was the first contributing factor. Second was they wanted to bring a helicopter to
I'm
the
going to
mountain.
pause you for 1 second because for those of you who are just listening, Nick was demonstrating that the goggles, mysteriously or not mysteriously, continued to move around your head and be a, a cushion, if you will, in between each moment your head was hitting the earth. Is that what you were describing?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I later found out. And
Right.
there are several events, there are several things about that day and what I'm describing that I found out that have been fed back to me that I found out after the fact. Of course, I wasn't conscious of that.
Right.
However, go ahead.
And these were all the miracles that took place. And you're about to tell us the third miracle, which was the helicopter.
Yeah, so they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital. They couldn't because it was too windy, so they had to send in an ambulance. And out of all the paramedics in the county, Trisha, there was only one who could intubate right on the spot. And because of my injuries, I needed that to be able to breathe. And lucky for me, he was one of the ones that showed up to the mountain that day. So that was the second thing that really led me to where I'm able to tell the story today. The third is when I was out for the count. Look, they said just based on the impact alone, I would have been out for probably 7 to 10 days at a minimum. However, I had so much swelling in my brain because of the force, the impact, that they had to induce me into a coma. So in the ICU, resting in the ICU, I was out. However, the only people allowed in my room were my immediate family, my parents. So when the doctors, they were just doing their job. They came into the room to share the not so positive news, not so positive news, and not so positive news. As you can imagine, they, for liability reasons, can't paint a rosy picture. So
Mm.
they went to share that in front of me, Tricia, to my parents, and the doctors are thinking, "Oh, he's in a coma. He can't hear us." My mom stopped them, and she said, "No, no, not in front of him," because she understood that even though I was in a coma, I was still taking in information. So she made the doctors step outside my room in the ICU. And that's when they shared that, look, he's been in a snowboarding accident. He's in a coma. Uh, we don't know how long he's going to be in the coma. And even if he's going to come out of the coma, um, even if he comes out, there's a good chance that he's probably not going to be able to walk, talk, or eat on his own ever again. Because none of this infiltrated me, none of this got through to me, whether it's through my subconscious or unconscious mind, I always confuse the two, still to this day. So, eh, whatever one it was, if it didn't get through to my mind, it allowed me to treat it like any other situation. So then a month after my accident, I ended up being in the coma for 3 weeks. And a month after, I got transported to a rehab hospital in Boston. And that's where I really started my journey. And unknowingly, I utilized a system to not only make a full recovery, but to run out of the hospital. That's the step system. And that's what I speak about in my keynotes and also in my work with our one on one clients to this day. STEP is an acronym, stands for support. You got to make sure you have the support of your family and friends right from the beginning. This is going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step is always going to be available to you. Follow it. And this is also about trusting that voice, that calling that you have inside of yourself. So the way that I always like to paint this picture is early on in my recovery, after I when I first got to the rehab hospital in Boston, I overheard my parents talking with my therapists and doctors and saying, "All right, what do we need to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery?" I heard in the back of my head, "No, you're going to run out." So then running out of the hospital became our common goal and what we are working on. And following that voice has led me to what I'm doing today. So back to the acronym. E is energy. Maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. Medication has the potential to get in the way of that. So the way that I talk about this, Trisha, is I needed medication and modern medicine drugs pumped into me to help keep me alive. I didn't really have a choice to say, no, I kind of want to go all natural on this. So, yeah, right. So
Give you some echinacea. Yeah.
Yeah, herbs and echinacea. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take the healthy route on this one. I'll take my vitamins. So I needed that to save, and that saved my life. However, after coming out of my coma, I had my support, which is what I talk about. My support in this case was my family. They had a decision to make, which is early on in my recovery. This story, I always like to share the story because it illustrates the point so well. Early on in my recovery, when I was in the rehab hospital in Boston, I would always have a support with me during the day, an advocate with me during the day, and that was always my parents, and usually a few days a week, her parents, my grandparents would come in. Then at night, my dad and like uncles and my grandfather would come in and spend the night with me. So I always had someone with me. Well, early on in my recovery, my grandfather was staying with me. And I woke up in the middle of the night. It's hard to say whether it was from his snoring, which that might be a whole nother podcast episode that we can talk about. Um, but whether it was my dad or an uncle or a grandfather, they always slept in a cot next to my hospital bed. Well, I still wasn't cleared to walk, so I tried to get his attention, my grandfather, and he wouldn't wake up because he couldn't hear me. Um, so I wasn't able to get him up, and I managed to push my bed down and hobble my way to the bathroom, use the bathroom, and get back. And nothing happened. I was fine. However, the hospital the next day found out, and they freaked out. Uh, because of liability. He can't be doing this, and we can't have this. And what we're going to do is give him this many cc's of this medication, that many cc's of this other medication, and that should really calm him down for bedtime so that he can get a full night's sleep. And my mom said, "No, you're not. Just tell him not to do that." So the hospital told me not to do that, and nothing like that ever happened again. And if you go back to STEP, the acronym P is persistence. So persistence, once you take your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step, no matter how small. And by doing something every day, you're building an unstoppable momentum. So if you fast forward less than 60 days later, I realized my goal on April 24th, 2003, and I ran out of the hospital. And Tricia, it wasn't like my work was done. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long, 5 days a week, in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. So it was quite the road, and I know where. I just wanted to keep it brief, like a brief overview, and we can explore whatever questions you have about that.
I have heard this story many times because we've known each other for many years now, and I've supported you in all of your keynote writing and all of your amazing speaker salon work. And it was my privilege and honor to support you in giving birth to Common Goal and the STEP system. And I still get emotional and inspired when you share this story, Nick. It's so incredible how you share it, the way you lay it out, the STEP acronym. For those of you who didn't write this down, support, trust, energy, and persistence. And this is a process that you can implement right now for whatever kind of forward momentum you need, whether you are experiencing some sort of recovery, some sort of trauma, whether you simply want to up level your game and be a high performer like Nick and like me. We're going to put all of this information in the show notes for you so that you can get in touch with Nick and potentially work with him or at least study his system, because I know he's got a free opt-in for you that's going to teach you about the STEP system as well. So I just want to say, Nick, that you're such a remarkable person, and I'm so honored that I get to hang out with you. And it's just a pleasure to hear you tell the story again.
Oh, thank you. It's really my pleasure to be on the show. So I'm excited for this opportunity to share with your listeners, your audience here.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about your most recent speaker salon talk and how you decided to use your voice and embrace silence.
Sure. So I don't know if you guys realize what I did there. I played with the silence a little bit right there. I remember Trisha, and I wanted to make sure that uh, I I really gave enough space for us to just uncover and see where this goes. I remember when you first asked me about the possibility of joining the Speaker Salon roster, if you will, for the final time. And it was a wholehearted yes for me. I really wanted to do it. And one of the first things, right immediately after I said yes, was ideas started flowing for me. And that was to play with silence. I've seen a lot of speakers myself, and I've been a lot around a lot of speakers, and just silence really, it just intrigues me so much, just because most people are afraid of it, but there's so much power um, in silence, and to really drive a message home. And really, it plays into meditation. And that's what I talked about in my speaker salon talk, which I'm excited about, because I've never seen it talked about in that way. So I was really excited to share that. The um, it was just on stage. I can remember it during the showcase, the periods of silence, and it was just, oh my gosh, it was so exciting. So
It's powerful to watch that because you choreographed very strategic moments of stillness and silence within the talk. And all of you, we'll put the link in the show notes so that you can go and watch this masterful performance. But I want to just ask you to speak a little bit to our listeners and to our audience, Nick, about your process, because I've seen you. You've always come prepared. You've always come memorized and with your script ready to go, and also completely willing to take it to the next level and to deconstruct and analyze and take feedback and notes. You always want to improve. That's part of your step process, right? You want to continue stepping forward and continuing to move forward. But there's a moment when I witness a speaker go from great to being in total command and mastery. And that's what I saw from you in this last speaker salon.
that's really That's really powerful coming from you. I really appreciate your thoughts, and it was a joy to be able to take your one of your stages at the Triad and share this message with the world, because I feel like it needs to be told.
It does. And we can all benefit from stillness and meditation and breathing. But when you think about what were you doing behind the scenes that took your speaking to that next level, and everyone who's listening and watching, we support speakers who want to become great speakers. There's a lot of speakers out there who are doing their thing, and that's amazing. However, we want to support people and speakers who want to become great and masterful, because this is truly an art form, and there's a responsibility that comes with speaking and being on a stage. And I know that you understand that responsibility, and you created artistry around this last performance. What were you doing behind the scenes?
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. I didn't even plan to talk about this, but this has been ringing in my head for the past few years, the past year or two at least, where it's prior to you, and I can actually talk about this openly. Prior to you, and this is one of the things I said to you after this iteration, the last iteration. albeit of the speaker salon, which is what I did in 2021. That was the first speaker salon that I did. That was the culmination of all the work that I had done on my own, and I had done by going to certain clubs and getting on stage and preparing for talks. That's what it is, the preparation, preparing for talks, just by doing it over and over and over. And prior to you, Tricia, and I really feel like my work with you has brought me to another level. What you were alluding to, prior to you, I wouldn't even write down. I didn't even have a script. It was just all in my head. And the way I would prepare, I would just do it over and over and over until I felt comfortable about it. And that was good. I mean, it always produced a good result. However, I would get to the day of when I was speaking, and I would feel all these nerves and everything going on, everything firing inside of me, which everyone feels like right before they get on stage, or especially the day that they speak. However, and prior to you, I only spoke for maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes max. And that was my top end limit. Um, Now that I've been working with you for approximately 3 years now, it'll definitely be longer by the time this comes out. It's really changed. It's really elevated me where um, you teach, and the way you work with all your speakers is memorization. It's a scary concept, I know, because when I first you first kind of pitched the idea to me, or I first came across it, I think in your book prior to us even working together, I was like, oh, I gotta memorize. So then I just committed to the process and my work with you, and memorization has taken me to another level. Um, and it's not that it just comes to you just by reading the page once a day, and that's, oh great, oh, you're lucky you can memorize. No, 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 it's definitely not that. You have to put in the work. Like, I can just remember this last speaker salon, Trisha. I would work on memorization and getting the words down for 30 minutes, 30 minutes per day. And that's what I would devote to it. If I did any longer than that, I would feel my energy. I'd start to get worn down. So I didn't go longer than 30 minutes. However, every day, Monday through Sunday, I would get up in front of the mirror before I had the words in my bones and just say the lines and see how far I could get. And every day it was a few sentences longer, a few sentences longer. Finally, to where I was able to memorize the whole thing. And that has really brought me to another level, I think, because prior to that, like I said, it was just me kind of, I don't want to say winging it, because I was preparing. I was just rehearsing it over and over and over, but memorization has brought me to another level. And I feel so passionately and so strongly about that because there are so many people that um, kind of bash memorization. Um, if that's if that's the right way to say it, I don't know. Or when you ask people how they memorize, oh no, no, I don't memorize. I don't do that. It's I feel like anyone that says they don't memorize, you're robbing yourself of being present and fully with the audience the day of the performance. And that has really changed the game for me. And I'm
Mm.
so happy that you directed me towards memorizing rather than just rehearsing over and over and over and over.
Well, thank you for saying that. I do believe in memorization. I am also fond of a speaker who understands how to speak from a deck. However, when you are memorized like you were in the speaker salon, you become you command the material, and then the stage becomes your playground. And that's exactly what I experienced. The stage became your playground, and you were so present and so in command of the material and of the audience, and that's such a beautiful gift to observe.
Well, thank you. It was a joy to share my message with the audience, because everything we're doing as speakers is for the audience. It's not us. It's not about us. And by doing the work, putting in the reps, doing it every day, and then once you get it, then add the blocking to it and everything. Once you do, if you do all that work correctly, you show up on the day of the performance, and you get to. It's not like there's not a big mountain of worry inside of you. You get to enjoy it. You get to be on the stage and be with the audience and witness almost. This is going to sound crazy for anyone that hasn't gone through this process. You almost take a back seat and witness the words coming out of your mouth, and get to really have a real life conversation and dialogue with yourself about, well, how is that person taking the message? How is this person? I have to go over here and give this person a little more eye contact and attention. Um, I feel like without it's all about you. Um, and that's what it's been in the past, and it's really been a powerful experience.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Are you ready for some fast talk, Nick?
I can't wait for some fast talk.
All right, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book, I'm going to go kind of off the self improvement train that I've been on for a while. It's my favorite my favorite fiction book, which is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig.
Nice. Who's your favorite speaker and why?
It's Adam Carroll. He's a TED speaker at he was a few years ago now in London. He spoke. I witnessed him virtually for years. I'm a part. One of the businesses that I'm a part of is a coaching and mentoring business, a separate family business. So for our events, we had Adam come in and do virtual presentations for us. I think it was during COVID that I was first introduced to him. Then I actually had the good fortune last year of seeing him in person. Tricia, people that watch Adam's performance, they said that I was just like, my mouth was like on the floor. I was like transfixed by how masterful he was and how in command of the room and the audience he was. I was just blown away. And if you ever get the chance to look him up, Adam Carroll.
We'll we'll definitely put these in the show notes. We've already discussed how you memorize and what you do the day before you speak. Let's talk about what podcast you're currently obsessed with.
Can we talk about the day of?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's transformed, and it hasn't been. This hasn't been a conscious thing, Trisha. I've always said, well, I'm always healthy, so I just do my regular routine. I get up, either meditate or I work out, and then I do my regular routine. I don't change anything. I found, and even today, before this interview, yesterday before an interview that I was on a podcast, I went and took a walk for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's not even a conscious thing. I that's just always what I do, and that gets me in the right place.
Mm, beautiful. That's a really, really good thing just to clear your head so that you're
Mm.
ready. What podcast are you currently obsessed with, Nick?
All right. So I am not obsessed with podcasts. I am not a big podcaster. One of the ones I listen to is the Big Talk. That's one of the ones that I am subscribed to. However, the thing that I am obsessed with is Joel Osteen Radio. And whatever your beliefs out there, um, I just I love the just the positive, uplifting, hope-filled messages that he has. They're almost like just half an hour snippets, and I'll usually listen to them on the weekend when I'm getting ready in the morning or making breakfast. It just really puts me in a great place, and that's what I'm obsessed with right now.
Amazing. Well, Nick, thank you for being a featured guest for the third time on the Big Talk podcast. Where can our listeners get in touch with you? And do you have that step system for them to download?
Sure. So what we covered, Trisha, for sake of time, was really only a 10,000 foot view of the step system. If they go to nickprefontaine.com/step, they can download the whole step system for free today. And they're going to learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. And also, if they're kind of stuck and they don't know what to do, what their next step is, that's a great first step, and that'll help them take their first step today.
Amazing. And where can we get in touch with you personally?
Uh,
nickprefontaine.com.
Yep. If you go to that same website, you should be able to submit a request.
Amazing.
nickprefontaine.com.
Amazing. And we'll put all of this in the show notes, everybody, so that you can find Nick and you can receive his amazing support. It has been such a privilege and a pleasure to have this conversation with you again, Nick. You are truly an influential voice.
Thank you, Tricia. I had a lot of fun.
Amazing. For those of you who are listening, thank you so much for dropping in with us today. And if you are watching this on the YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get access to our latest episodes. We appreciate you dropping in and rating and reviewing and sharing and doing all the things that support our amplifying and elevating voices. Remember, everyone, your voice matters. Big love.